This is a weird bit of LA history. I'm on the 101 freeway. The 101 freeway cut through an old Hollywood neighborhood when it was built in 1950 or in the 50s. The 101 was built and it cut through a neighborhood called Whitley Heights, which is a lot of old timers lived in Whitley Heights. I mean, the real old timers like Gloria Swanson and Charlie Chaplin and Rudolph Valentino. So this literally cut through the neighborhood. There's still beautiful houses on the right, still beautiful houses on the left of this freeway. But I'm going to show you all that's left of Valentino's house. And you're only going to see it for a second because it's close to impossible to stop. In fact, I did stop there one time on the freeway, and literally within 2 minutes, a highway helper, the guys that just patrol up and down to help stranded motorists, came by. So I told them, my car didn't start, but then I magically started. So, but anyway, I've tried to get good footage of this place, of this foundation of Valentino's house. It's sort of funny in Hollywood where you're pointing out the pieces of bricks, but I'm used to it now. But on the right, you can see that barrier. But look to the left of the barrier, you'll see up in the hills, right where that Cahuenga Boulevard sign points to the right, there's the ruins of Valentino's Whitley Heights home, right there. That is my ode to Valentino. Oh, and here's something fun while we're here. I'm exiting at Vine Street, and on the right you will notice, if you like Sunset Boulevard, the building from Sunset Boulevard, the Alto Nido apartments where William Holden lived, there they are. You'll be able to see the Alto Nido sign that William Holden mentions in the movie, and his apartment, there we go. And his apartment was the one just underneath the balcony on the left-hand side. That building there, it's hard to tell anymore, but the Three Stooges filmed a movie in front of it called Three Little Pigskins when they were playing football. Now it's a hedge that blocks it, you can't really see. And there's Capitol Records. The needle on the top of it has a red light on top of it that blinks out the word Hollywood in Morse code. And we're coming up in about a block to the corner of Hollywood and Vine. That's where William Holden's car was parked in Sunset Boulevard. There's the Hollywood Palladium that they used to have the show come out of, and very haunted. They used to be on a real ghost tour. Corner of Hollywood and Vine. The back of a white van. It's always the biggest car in front of me. Windows filthy. Wasn't anticipating shooting any video of this, but I just threw my camera on. Clark Gable's dentist used to be in there. Hollywood and Vine has turned into a real challenging intersection, challenging neighborhood. On the corner right up there was a Starbucks. They closed down the Starbucks because of crime. I mean, imagine closing down a Starbucks. And that's the old Broadway department store up there. I think Dave Navarro used to, it's condos now. You can still see the neon sign on top. It's pretty cool. I think they light it up. They used to. Hollywood and Vine. Claire Beau's old cafe. It was in a parking lot there that first time I came to Hollywood, it was on a TV show called Anything for Money.
Okay, a quick bizarre story. In 1985, I had to look this up. The show was called Anything for Money, and it was a hidden camera show where people would approach you and ask you to do things that we'll see what your price range was. So in this case, my sister and I, the first time I've ever been to Hollywood, I'm looking at this picture now, and it's like Harvey Fierstein at the Huntington Hartford Theater, and there's the Brown Derby. We were right across the street from the Brown Derby, and a woman came up to me and said, "I hit a car with my car. My husband's going to kill me. When he gets here, will you take $50 and tell him that you saw the whole thing?" And then the husband came and said, "You said this," and they were getting confrontational with me. And I guess the show didn't air for very long, and I don't think my episode ever made it, but this was me in there's the hidden camera in that van back there. I think I actually I think I clocked it, and I think they probably skipped me from being on their show for that. But anyway, there's a weird little story. 1985, a show called Anything for Money, and there's my my sassy shorts. Oh, and don't think for a second I got to keep the $50.
They caught me on the street. And that staircase that you see right there was the Steve Martin staircase from The Jerk. The Whitney Houston nightclub where she performed the last night of her, the last performance, it was the last night of her life. It's just around the corner there. The very first film ever made in Hollywood was at the corner of Vine and Selma, there where that Equinox is now. It was a barn there, and they directed The Squaw Man. The barn was brought by DeMille, who directed it, to Paramount Studios. Then it was saved and ultimately ended up across from the Hollywood Bowl. Still there as the Hollywood Heritage Museum. Sunset and Vine coming up. Top of the line at Sunset and Vine. Merv Griffin Studios we just passed. Or where they were anyway.
That green office building on the left was used in the 1974 film Earthquake.
And you might remember that murder video I did where the guy flipped and got out of his car, Tyler Brem, and just started shooting randomly. He ended up killing a producer who was one of the Spice Girls producers, and they ended up shooting him in the street. And that was right in front of this green brick building on the right.
So, they thought I was a little bit crazy. My mom was worried. She said, "You could have been killed." And I said, "Well, 3 or 4 other people did."
Here's here. The Yoga Works was a yoga studio that was right over there. I have a matchbook from them. Now it's Netflix. It was an old soundstage, but it's funny, there was like matches for a soundstage. Like they're going to smoke and do yoga. Matches for a yoga place. It's the Mary Pickford Center. Hello, Kathy, my friend Kathy. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. Clearly, people that are into Hollywood. Well, I'm into Hollywood, but there's a lot of stuff. All these old buildings. I know that there was a restaurant that Karen Carpenter used to go to that was next to that sound stage right there. And then that pawn shop on the right is the one that shows up in the background of that famous James Dean picture. September 30th, 1955, one of the last photographs ever taken of James Dean, the day he died, was taken from right here. He had picked up his little Porsche Spyder from Competition Motors, which is now an Armenian cultural center. Competition was destroyed 10 or 12 years ago, something like that. You can see Hollywood has changed considerably since then. But Jimmy was in his Porsche Spyder with his mechanic Ralph, and the photograph was taken right here. What you can make out is that that corner of that pawn shop, which will be destroyed soon, 100%. One of the last places you can actually photograph James Dean or match up a photograph. So 68 years ago today, because it's September 30th, 2023. Jimmy died September 30th, 1955. Rest in peace, James Dean. And hi to all my Diener friends. Santa Monica and Vine. Across the street on the left over there where you see a Panda Express, that's where the Phil Spector studio was, the Wall of Sound studio. This is a sloppy video. I'm jumping all over the place with it. But yeah, Phil Spector, all those Be My Baby and You Lost That Love and Feeling on that corner over there on the left. Oh, did I get that wrong? Yeah, that's the Vine Street Elementary School where Marilyn went to school. Jeez. God, I'm a moron. I'm still out of practice. I'm way out of practice. And that guy who did the Manson documentary was murdered in the parking lot there on the left behind that building. I did a video about that. But the reason we're here was because in 1977, this was a film school, and it was owned by a man named Lawrence Merrick, and it was called the Lawrence Merrick Studios. Movie producer director Lawrence Merrick, maker of the documentary film Manson, based on the Charles Manson cult, was shot to death today at his film school in Hollywood by an unidentified assailant. The gunman escaped. A single bullet tore through his back. He was shot in the back at 12:30 p.m. This was, again, January 26, 1977. The Holly Grove Orphanage, where Marilyn lived for a while, was behind that green hedge. It's still social services. Above us, you see a church in the middle of the road. It'll be on our left. That's where the Catholic Church, Ron Carey, his funeral was. And then in the middle there, you can see the Ravenswood, which was Mae West's home for over 40 years on the 6th floor. Hello, Kimberly, my friend who lives in that very apartment where Mae lived, which is, Mae's home for 40 years. It's a rather modest place. I was sort of surprised when we went in there for the first time. It's a very modest apartment that you would be sort of surprised that Mae West lived in, but 40 years she lived there and died there in the apartment. All right, now I am stopping. Just a quick jaunt through my neighborhood for a few blocks. Across the light ahead of us, you can see maybe a gray building, a tall gray building about 5 stories tall. That is the new addition onto Hollywood Forever Cemetery. There's, I don't know how many, 26,000 new graves or something like that. That used to be, well-used space. Used to be where they kept all their equipment, their, maintenance equipment. That ugly strip mall to the left used to be cemetery property. But the guy that ran the cemetery for decades, his name was Jules Roth, and he basically stole all the money from the Perpetual Care Fund, and when he finally died, they had to close the doors to the cemetery. You could only get in like once a month. So anyway, these two guys, Tyler and Brent Cassidy, sort of the inspiration on 6 Feet Under, bought it, and now it's the hipster place where you can watch movies and do yoga and stuff like that. On that block over there was where Karen Carpenter took drum lessons. I used to get flat tires fixed there. On the right, I can't really move this thing because it goes off. But yeah, that tall thing is a skyscraper for corpses. And this hideous strip mall is really scandalous.
Troy just found this clip from a YouTube channel called Vivid History, and here it is on the right, the gorgeous front lawns of Hollywood Cemetery. I reversed the clip so the cars are moving backwards, but you can see on the right, before that horrible strip mall was built, that was beautiful front lawns. And wildly on our left, you're going to see the Dearly Departed Tours Museum. This was back in the 50s, I guess. There it is on the left. There's 5 Star Tire, and on the left where that car's pulling out, right there is the old Dearly Departed Tours Museum.
The guys had brought it back to life, and now, you know, back then there were no celebrities. In fact, celebrities were being exhumed. They took their bodies out. So now the Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was the first one that really brought it back. This is the cemetery entrance on the right. And this is where Cass Elliott's funeral was held, and there was news footage of the mourners heading to the chapel right over here. Quick jaunt. They put that plastic thing up there probably during COVID, and it's been there ever since, but that's where the chapel is. There's the skyscraper from the inside. I shouldn't have come in here because, well, over here on the right, the recently exhumed Judy Garland from New York is now the Judy Garland Pavilion. How'd they come up with that name? And there she is, straight back. That mausoleum up in front of us is where Bugsy Siegel is. The cemetery, you know, when they need to make land. Oh, that entrance was used in a few movies. I think most recently I saw it in that Betty Davis, Joan Crawford movie, them coming in. I think it was the preview of that, coming in these gates.
Damn it, Joan! Hello, Betty.
All right, watch this guy coming up. I think Franz Waxman's in that mausoleum too, the Sunset Boulevard music guy. Neil Hefti, I think was the Batman guy. There's lots of people in here. There's still Getty not far from us. Judy Tenuta's to the left. In there. A lot of new ones are in there. Jambi the Genie's in there. The Goddess Bunny. Squiggy. These guys are taking pictures by Mel Blanc. And then behind Mel Blanc is that In a World guy from Trailers, movie Trailers. That's her on the right. That's still Getty. You can see it over the fence. Mel Blanc. They don't have any more space here, so they're taking old roads, like this one on the right. And let's see if I can put that. And sort of covering them up and making them into new spaces. There's another old road. You can tell by the way the trees are. Another old road.
To clarify what I mean, the old roads, you can tell where roads used to be, like concrete driving roads through the cemetery. But since space is premium, they've removed the roads, and that is now burial space. But you could tell where the roads were by the way the trees used to line the street.
That's Paramount Studios back there. The wood shop, obviously. And that mausoleum that you see, well, that's where they show movies now. It used to be free. It used to come here on the anniversary of Valentino's death, and they show a Valentino movie, and they'd play it, and it would be, free. About 50 people here. Now I think they limit it to 5,000 people who pay 10 or 20 bucks a head. Then you have to pay another 20 to park. So kind of there you are. There you are. The Fairbanks, Douglas Sr. and Jr. are over there. I did a story about Jr.'s funeral. The Dickey Birds. They just don't care. They just don't care. Johnny Ramone to the left. The memorial to Hattie McDaniel. Chris Cornell was in there. And that's Helena Hutchins, who Alec Baldwin killed. Mickey Rooney, Anne Hayes. So I'm not able to go in this. I really can't stay, but in there is where Valentino is. That's my grave, isn't it? You want to see my grave? I'll take you to see my grave real quick. There's several celebrities here. I bought this grave niche when my buddy Larry died. And the reason I bought it is because my buddy Larry, when he died, well, just before he died, we promised each other, because we both figured we'd die single, that we'd get a grave together. But when he died, we didn't like each other very much. But when he died, we bought him this one. I put the Rock'em Sock'em Robot in there. And then I bought mine on the opposite, close enough but far enough. Hi. So this one's mine. And a few other people. I showed you this before. Larry Tate from Bewitched. He moved in after me, even though he died before me. Rick Jason from Combat. Ed Wood's wife. There's more.
sad as hell. And everyone comes here to visit Valentino. Hey, Tracy. I was at Valentino's home, Falcon Lair, and saw this week that it will be, what's left of it, the garage. I guess Tracy said it was. I always thought it was guest quarters or servants' quarters. That it will be destroyed. So all that's left of Falcon Lair would probably be the gates that say Falcon Lair. I hope. I hope. See you, buddy. I have to say hello to Mr. Dibble. I was reading a book called The Ghost of Mr. Dibble several years ago, and I came down here. Well, actually, Troy and I were in here, and we heard this loud sound down here, and no one was down here. But we came all the way down, and we were right here, Charles Dibble. God, Troy and I were in a bookstore once, a really weird little bookstore. I don't know where it was, on Highland something. It was just chock full of books, and really in hardly any order. And there was a man there behind the counter, and Troy and I were just looking around, and this book fell. It just fell, like down, a single book fell down the hall. And we went down there and picked it up and looked at it, and we put it back on the shelf. We were so stupid. That would have been interesting to see what it was. Well, that's Harry Cohn right over there, Columbia. That thing right there is Tyrone Power. Next to it is Marion Davies in that big mausoleum, and Arthur Lake. That guy used to be with Sharon Tate. None of this was here when I bought my grave. None of these people. Man, they talk a lot about that one eye covered thing. They talk a lot about that. Sometimes this guy had a good story. Our man of the year. I think he was Playgirl Man of the Year. Ended up in a car. And him. Not a fan. As a human, anyway. We gotta move. Let's see. I showed you guys Burt Reynolds before in here. Nelson Eddy. Nelson Eddy is literally a little place in the ground behind that thing. Within an inch of it, in front of it, is Nelson Eddy. When singer-actor Nelson Eddy died in 1967, his grave was a simple plaque, as you can see, but nothing was anywhere around it. So this thing was built literally right on top of Nelson Eddy. Next to him is his wife, Ann Eddy, and I remember the Nelson Eddy fan club. The women would come out and maintain his grave. They were so nice, but they always threw dirt on her grave for some reason. They did not like Nelson Eddy's wife, but you can see how out of place that monument is above Nelson Eddy, just a few inches from his stone. Holly came from Miami, FLA. Bob Esty, I used to know him. He lived in the guest house on Cielo Drive. Composer, musician, arranger, gold and platinum record producer. He knew David Lockery. I asked him about that. Herb Jeffries and Larry Drake. Dr. Giggles, the LA Law. And on this side, ones we can see from here. You'll be able to see, I apologize for the noises my car is making. Let's see. I can see Burt Reynolds' head. Oh, right over here is Don Adams. Got smart. You can see his shoe phone thing. Let's see, where's it? There. And then over there's the back of Burt Reynolds. And let's see. You can do whatever you want in here. Oh boy, man, they used to see you with a camera. They come after you. They would just tear into you. Get out of here with that camera. And now it's like, come on in here and play yoga. Play yoga. There's a cenotaph. Actually, this is relevant to what we're talking about. I'll show you. That's Cecil B. DeMille right there. The most famous director in Hollywood history, I think. At the time, anyway. Angelina Jolie lives in his house now. Anthony Quinn married one of DeMille's daughters, and they had a son who drowned in W.C. Field's swimming pool, which was right across the road from DeMille's house, which ended up belonging to Lily Tomlin. Ooh, a swan. They're not friendly. And she is, just about on top. No. Janet Gaynor and Adrian, the designer. It's okay. I came down here to show you Jane Mansfield's cenotaph. Jane Mansfield isn't here, but her fan club president bought this for her. It says right on it, cenotaph. Jack Laird from Night Gallery. So there's Burt Reynolds. Oh, I may as well go over there. I just realized there's someone I haven't visited yet. A new person in the cemetery. Over there by that tree in the bench, it's Fay Ray. And over here, so you can't see him because all the fans leave all this stuff, is David Lynch.
You can't even see his name. I understand being a fan, but be respectful to the person too. At least keep his name visible. This is going to be a mess forever. But people love him. People love him. Obviously. By these trees on the right is Alfalfa from the Little Rascals. He is right there. I gotta get out of this place. I wanted to run in here for a second and show you guys some stuff, but I really gotta go. Gotta go. Was held in the chapel, and there's footage of, like, I remember Michelle Phillips and a few other people walking. There's nothing more distinctive than the sound of feet walking on concrete, you know, on the way to a funeral. That is just so distinctive. But that's where Cass's funeral was held. And Lana Clarkson is buried in that building. That wasn't there. They were planning for that before COVID. Some distillery, Hollywood Distillery. Over here on the left is the former location of dearly departed tours. Now they do stars on car roofs. When the owners, when Troy and I were renting there, they wouldn't let us paint the building. But now the owners, as I understand it, have died. So now they will. The new ones will let you paint it. If you're going to pay the rent, I guess, they'll let you do that, which they could when we did. That would have been cool. So the whole strip mall on the right is all, used to be this gorgeous front lawn of Hollywood Cemetery. And this was my street. There is, so all this on the right used to be, well, is cemetery property. The cemetery, I've said this before, was twice the size as it used to be. In the early 19-teens, a movie studio bought half the land and created a studio, which is now Paramount Studios. So Paramount Studios, which here on Lemon Grove, is, as we pass Lemon Grove, if you remember from Sunset Boulevard, Nancy Olson said, "Oh, I grew up in Lemon Grove." That was filmed on the Paramount lot, and we're now, to our right, is the Paramount lot. This is my block on the left, the one I used to live on. There's some curious people, curious buildings. And probably right where that truck is, which would be perfect, is where my old apartment was. There's a great picture I have of my old friend Cass from the Formosa Cafe standing on the road, which used to be in front of Paramount Studios, which is now bought by Paramount Studios. Okay, my building
is right where those big trees are. Wow, those trees were little when I moved in, seriously. And all those hedges we built. Look at that shade. Wow, that's good for them. And I think, was it Scott Grohl told me, Scott, that Billy Barty used to live in that building? And that was my apartment right there. 718 North Van Ness. I lived there for 16 years. Oh yeah, and they filmed Green Queens here. I forgot about that. They used my friend Lisa's apartment up there, and I took some photographs of them. That was my door on the left.
I was sitting closer so I didn't see your hand.
Oh, great. That the Chanels would be heroes. You would be wrong. We were pariahs. We were innocent of the crime, but guilty of being awful. Our grade A blue ribbon realness got us ostracized.
That was funny, watching Jamie Lee Curtis driving in a limousine up this driveway. That was crazy. They probably had an inch or two on each side of the limo. I don't know how they did it, and then backed it up again. And Jamie Lee Curtis got out. I mean, it's like 20 feet from us.
Oh my God. Dean Munch?
No, Chanel. Chanel's.
Little Decker, the only whom he ever knew. But I'll give you an idea how close I was to Paramount. Well, you could see Paramount on the right. This is Paramount. So, oh, Troy's banana tree. Troy planted that banana tree. Don't laugh at that. I think it's massive. So that's Raleigh Studios up ahead. That's where they made some of the interiors of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, The Fog. Those are the ones I know. And I think it was Death Valley Days was shot there. I'll take this off again. But to give you an idea how close I was to the famous Paramount Studios gate, this is my regular nightly walk with Decker. Here they are. Up at the gates. We're on Bronson Avenue. Get it? Charles Bronson. The time machine, still, even the post is gone. I'm going to show you one of the coolest things. Paramount again. And look at this.
animal had to put graffiti on it. Pigs, man. Just pigs. You can't just leave something cool. Anyway, it is cool. Trying not to dwell on the negative. Get it? Charles Bronson. The time machine, still, even the post is gone. That used to be a favorite thing at Donna and I. This is Raleigh Studios. The oldest part. That picture of the black cats lined up for some sort of audition. We're all along this wall. All right, I gotta go. Gotta head back to the desert where it will be. It's 68 right now. And it will be 50 degrees hotter in about 2 hours. Thanks for joining me on my little trip of my old neighborhood.
You heard me.